Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Media Row podcast. I'm your host, as always, Justin Miller. Thank you so much for tuning in for today's show. A lot to get to. We have St. Thomas versus Drake, a huge game in Des Moines kicking off at noon. We will be there covering it live. Two top Pioneer Football League teams going head to head. And then you have probably the biggest game in the state that has happened all season long, kicking off in Iowa City as number 9 Oregon takes on now number 20 Iowa in what will be a really fun game. We'll give our predictions on all the college football games and, of course, the NFL games. But this is the best time of the year because now we have college football, NFL, and college basketball all overlapping. So we have a Drake men's basketball game to recap from last night as well, which hopefully you are following along on social media to see those firsthand interviews with Coach Henderson and some players. And then we will play a couple of clips from Coach Henderson in today's show as well, in case you missed it. But before we get to today's show, I do want to remind you guys to go like and subscribe, rate wherever you're getting this podcast. If it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, if you're listening on there, make sure to like, comment, rate. And then if you're viewing us on YouTube, make sure to click that subscribe button as well. And then, of course, follow us all over social media at Media Row. And one last thing, and then I promise you we will get to the show. I just want to say thank you guys so much. I'm not someone who every day or every week, not even every month, at the end of the month, I'm not checking the numbers. But for some reason, the other day, I just decided to hop on and look at how the numbers are doing, and it blew me away. Thank you guys so much. It was the most listened to podcast that we have had since we started, by a lot, by hundreds of downloads. And it just warms my heart. And I seriously, it just means the world to me that you guys are so supportive and willing to take time out of your day to listen to this show and be a part of this show. And I just want to say thank you guys so much. And if you're new, welcome to the show. Hope you enjoy it because now, like I've said, this is when the show is at its absolute best. This is why I created this show, is for this time of the year where you have college football and college basketball overlapping. So thank you guys so much for your support. Thank you to Kelly's Little Nipper. Guys, go check them out at 1701 East Grand Avenue in Des Moines. Go use that keyword in Woodley and get your first drink on the house. But they were the first people to jump on board with this show. So none of those numbers, none of this would have been possible without their support. So Jeff and everyone at Kelly's Little Nipper, from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys so much. And Megan and I, here soon, are definitely going to go and grab some good grub and drinks over there at Kelly's Little Nipper. You guys should too. Maybe we'll see each other. So thank you guys so much. Let's get into today's show, starting with the game that we will be covering at noon in Des Moines on Saturday, a huge game in the PFL. You have St. Thomas traveling to the Drake Bulldogs. St. Thomas has won 4 games straight. They are 6-3 in overall play, 4-2 in the conference. Drake Bulldogs, of course, they're on this massive winning streak since PFL play started, and they are 6-2 overall, 5-0 in the conference. And if you like a battle in the trenches, to be honest, the Saturday might be just a perfect representation of football in Iowa, because you have Iowa City and you have the Iowa Hawkeyes going up against Oregon, which a lot of people are expecting to be a smash mouth defensive line of scrimmage battle. Then you go to Des Moines at noon, and you have St. Thomas, the number 2 offense and defense in the PFL. And you have Drake, number 3 offense and defense in the PFL. The only offensive statistical category Drake is better than the Tommies is rushing yards per game. Other than that, offensively, St. Thomas have been a monster in the PFL. So this one's going to be a lot of fun. It's probably going to be the most competitive, most on the line, stakes at hand for the Drake Bulldogs in Des Moines this season. Because Morehead State, their last home game here coming up in 2 weeks, that game, Morehead State is kind of middle of the pack, lower middle of the pack team as of right now. Things, of course, can change. But a lot of their tough games, and what has really surprised me with this Bulldog team, with how successful they've been, and what makes this 5-game winning streak even more incredible, is a lot of their toughest games have been on the road. San Diego was a really tough team. Win that game. And then you have Marist. And it's just been a tough schedule for the Bulldogs. Being at home for this one is really crucial, and I think is going to prove to be a big advantage for the Bulldogs. But let's get into kind of what St. Thomas does well and what has led them, into this winning streak that they have of 4 games. And number one, if you listen to Wednesday's show, as we sat down with Drake head football coach Joe Woodley, and if you missed it, go back to the show on YouTube or wherever you're listening and listen to that show. Always appreciate Joe Woodley's time. But the number one thing he mentioned is the wide receiver core for St. Thomas has been incredible. And he's not wrong, but what really I think set me back and made me circle these names multiple times in highlighter is he compared this wide receiver core to the wide receiver cores at South Dakota State and South Dakota. The only 2 losses Drake has this season, and some of the toughest teams Drake will play all year. But they have 4 players in the PFL top 25 in individual touchdowns, receiving touchdowns. You have most in the league out of any team. Most teams had about 1 or 2 players in that top 25. Drake had 3, but 4 is the max right now with St. Thomas. But with 707 receiving yards, second in the conference, you have Quentin Cobb Butler. That's just one player. Just so everyone's clear. Quentin Cobb Butler, a 5'7" sophomore, second most in the PFL in touchdowns with 7 and in receiving yards. Then they have Jashawn Todd, who's actually a running back for St. Thomas, which is actually pretty interesting because on Wednesday's show, we spent a lot of time with Woodley talking about how Drake has utilized one of their veteran leaders in Taj Hughes more in that passing game and the offensive game. He's kind of a running back, wide receiver, Swiss Army knife of a player. And then you have St. Thomas, who's doing the exact same with Jashawn Todd, who has 3 touchdowns. Patrick Wagner as well with 3 touchdowns, and then Tyson Schilling with a lone touchdown as well. So they have a really good quarterback that Coach Woodley mentioned he is familiar with. You also have a wide receiver core that is arguably the best in the PFL. But Drake has favored well against the pass. They're 3rd in passing yards a game. They held San Diego, who is top 3 passing offense in the PFL, to just 181 yards against the Bulldogs. Drake has not allowed over 200 yards in the air since South Dakota. So now you can take this 2 ways. One, man, look how strong this defense is and look how much it's improved, which is absolutely true. If you listen to the early shows in the early part of the football season, I mentioned probably the biggest question mark I had with this defense because I knew the defensive line was stacked and I knew the linebackers were fantastic with Sean Allison and J.R. Flood. It was the secondary I was most concerned about. Well, then Mikey Mangialardi comes out there and starts performing well above my expectations. He's been incredible. The entire secondary has been incredible. So you could take it that way, but then also if it is this wide receiver core as good as those South Dakota teams, then Drake might have some issues. They might get exposed. Maybe the secondary hasn't improved as much. We don't know. I feel from what I've seen, the secondary has been way better than what I feared, and they have proven me wrong time and time again with those performances, especially on the road against Amaris, against San Diego. The second thing that St. Thomas does so well and what has led them to this 4-game winning streak is this defense causes turnovers. During their 4-game winning streak, they have forced a total of 14 total turnovers, while themselves have only lost the ball 1 time. That's an average of 3.5 turnovers per game. They are forcing almost 4 turnovers per game. And Drake, ever since kind of switching to Logan Inagawa as that full-time QB1, with Chase Spellman still injured and not 100%, they've done a way better job of not turning the ball over. But it's going to be crucial, absolutely crucial, that Drake doesn't turn over the ball against the Tommies. And you look at this defense for St. Thomas, second in total defense, second versus the rush, and fifth versus the pass. Just a stacked, well-rounded defense on all levels. The secondary strong. The linebackers are incredible. This is going to be a fantastic game. If your kid is a linebacker, if you are a former linebacker or someone that just enjoys watching that spot, kind of the captain of the defense, this is the game you watch. Sean Allison, a veteran and someone who flies towards the football and seems like he always knows where that ball is going to be on the side for the Bulldogs. And then you have a great group of guys with St. Thomas that have really propelled the Tommies to that top 5 defensive ranking in every statistical category. So the linebacking cores for both teams are going to be a lot of fun to watch. To finish up with Drake and St. Thomas, kind of the keys for the Bulldogs I have written down. Number 1, like I was just saying, limit the turnovers. St. Thomas, they've been averaging in this 4-game winning streak 52.2 points per game. They are cruising past teams. Opponents are only averaging 10 points a game against them. And a huge part of the reason why they're able to just blow out these teams and cruise past these teams is because they're able to get these free possessions. I mean, you think about it, that's 4 extra possessions a game for this team. And so Drake has done a great job of protecting the football these last few weeks, especially really since Logan Inagawa took over. And they're going to need to keep that up if they want to come out on Saturday with a 6th straight victory. Number 2 is kind of goes along with these turnovers. If you watch these games with St. Thomas, they do a really good job of getting to the quarterback, causing issues, causing quicker decisions to be made by opposing teams, causing for more issues to be made. And that's huge because Drake, before last week, the offensive line had played perfect. Logan had plenty of time in the pocket, wasn't getting rushed, wasn't needing to really get creative. He's going to be challenged, and that offensive line is going to be challenged this week. The offensive line last week gave up 4 sacks over the weekend against Butler on the road. Before that, they only had 8 total sacks leading up into that game. This offensive line is going to need to be disciplined and is really going to need to get physical. And that line of scrimmage game is going to be crucial for the Bulldogs because this is a St. Thomas team that, yes, forces turnovers, but it's because they're second in the PFL with 23 total sacks. This is a team that likes to get to the quarterback, different blitz packages. They can go man-to-man. They can go zone. They are incredible on the defensive end. So that is my second key. And then to finish up, just be disciplined. Way too many penalties last week. at Butler. Drake and St. Thomas, very similar in the PFL in terms of penalties against each other, both 4th and 5th in the conference. But we saw Drake, they allowed Butler to put up a score because they had a holding penalty that if they didn't hold, that would have been an incomplete pass, 4th and long. Butler has to punt the ball away. They also had points taken off the board because of holding penalties and false starts. So if you're going up against a really tough team in the PFL and a team that's averaging 52 points per game, you can't give them extra possessions and you can't shave off points because of being undisciplined and having false starts. Those are my 3 keys. It's going to be a lot of fun. St. Thomas at Drake, noon in Des Moines. We will be there live. Make sure you're following along on social media, on Twitter at Media Row Pod for live game updates as well as firsthand interviews with Coach Woodley. So let's get to it. Such a great time of the year. These games, every game matters in college football now moving forward. And the biggest game of the weekend in this state, you have number 9 Oregon at 20 Iowa. And I understand the fear that opposing teams will have going into Kinnick. And I understand the crazy things that happen in Iowa City. I believe it's Joel Klatt that has named Kinnick as the place where top 10 teams go to die. And he's not wrong. Look at these stats. The Iowa Hawkeyes 8-5 versus top 10 teams at home since 2002. They're 5-1 versus top 10 teams in the month of November since 2010. Then you look at the argument against Oregon where they haven't really played anyone. They've only beaten 2 teams that have winning records. At home against Indiana, they got physically handled. While you look at the Iowa Hawkeyes against Indiana and Kinnick, they were a broken defensive play away from possibly beating the Hoosiers. That being said, I know Iowa's the popular upset pick this weekend, but Oregon wins this game. Oregon wins this game because I think a lot of people are picking Iowa based on it's in Kinnick, which is fair, and they have a great defense, which is also fair. But the Ducks, they are right behind Iowa. They're 3rd in the Big Ten in total defense. This is going to be the most athletic team the Iowa Hawkeyes have played up to this point in the season. I'm also a Dante Moore believer, even with coming back from an injury. But the number one reason the Oregon Ducks beat the Iowa Hawkeyes this weekend is because of head coach Dan Lanning. You know he is going to have this team playing together, and he is a guy that can motivate this team with really anything. But you add in the college football playoff rankings and how they put them low in that 9th spot, you know they're going to be coming out with some extra fire and extra motivation. And that's why I believe Oregon takes down Iowa in a battle, in a fun game, as number 9 Oregon survives Kinnick this weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. It's weird to me. I also have Oregon winning because my gut is saying with everyone picking Iowa right now to upset Oregon, it never feels like it goes that way. Iowa upsets these top 5 teams when no one gives them a chance. Look at the Ohio State game. Ohio State was number 2 in the country. I don't even think Iowa was ranked. No one was giving them a shot to beat the Ohio State Buckeyes, and then they put up like 1,000 points on them. It's going to be one of those where, the Drake game probably will get over around 3 o'clock, right before kickoff. Maybe we'll miss that first quarter, but it's one of those, get a few things posted on social media for the Drake game, and then hustle my ass home so I can watch this Iowa-Penn State game. Iowa-Oregon, sorry about that. Iowa-Oregon game. It is going to be so much fun, and I cannot wait. Please put in your comments if you agree with the Oregon-Iowa prediction, what you think will happen. Always love hearing from you guys what you think of these predictions. So I have Oregon taking down number 20 Iowa in Kinnick. So you have Iowa City. Everybody's excited. I mean, start of the year, you didn't think you'd be in this position, really. Didn't think went out and possibly playing for a Big Ten title, possibly playing for a college football playoff spot. Ames, it's the exact opposite. That's where you thought you should be. And now you're sitting there wondering what the hell's happening. Iowa State doesn't get much easier. They have to go on the road this weekend to play TCU. You have TCU, a 3-1 team since the last time Iowa State won a football game. At this point, the Cyclones are playing for pride. And I know people can say, no, they're playing for a bowl spot. Yeah, they are. You want to get bowl eligible, and you want to see your team play in a bowl game and win a bowl game, no matter what that game is. But let's be honest. This day and age, bowl games don't really matter that much. And if you're the Iowa State Cyclones, a bowl game is kind of a disappointment this year. At the start of the year, we're all saying this is a team with Rocco Beck, Matt Campbell, a Haycock coach defense. This is a team that should be playing for a Big 12 title spot and should be in the college football playoff, or at least battling in the conversation. And now they're sitting here, 4-game losing streak, and it doesn't look like it's getting brighter. The grass isn't getting greener. TCU. This is a team that can throw the hell out of the ball. Hoover, number 2 quarterback in the Big 12. You do have Iowa State, a bottom tier passing defense. The Cyclones offensively have really been hard to watch. I mean, Rocco Beck just doesn't look the same as the past 2 years. I saw a few people, talk about maybe not benching him. You start him, but you start to try to put in Moberly and those other guys to take some weight off of his shoulders. I understand that argument, and those are coming from people that, they are close to that Cyclone program. From afar, I'm sitting here going, you just don't do that. Rocco is such a fantastic quarterback. I still have confidence in him. Look at last weekend, perfect example. There's a minute and a half to go. Regardless of how bad Rocco looked going up to that point in the game, I still had confidence Iowa State was going to win that game, and that's what he brings as a captain for the Cyclones. But he has not looked great. Third down has been brutal during this 4-game losing streak. I saw Chris Williams post this, so I want to give him credit. But the Cyclones on third down, 13 of 54. 13 of 54. 24%. If you're Iowa State, the only positives going into this game is TCU defensively struggles against the pass. They're 15th in the Big 12. So maybe Rocco can get some rhythm offensively going. And then they're not much better on against third down as well. They're 14th in the conference. So maybe we'll see those third down numbers get better. I don't see really those two things mattering too much. I still see TCU steamrolling this game. And I maybe the scoreboard makes it look close, but I think the feel of this game is that TCU controls it from kickoff and wins, and Iowa State loses their 5th straight. And that's who I got winning for Iowa State and TCU. And now to wrap up with our 2 other national college football games, a huge one in the SEC. Number 3 Texas A&M at number 22 Missouri. Man, you watch Texas A&M, they're a lot of fun to watch. Really strong on both sides of the ball. Every game it feels like is back and forth, no matter who they play. So I think this game, Missouri challenges Texas A&M, But very similar to the Oregon argument of Dan Lanning's going to have this team motivated with these previous college football playoff rankings, because a coach can say in a press conference, no, we don't care about those rankings, blah, blah, blah. They're using that as motivation. They're using that. So Texas A&M, I think, was a team that was kind of upset with the top three. They're thinking they're number 2, possibly number 1. I don't, but they're going to use that as motivation. I think they went on the road, and it's going to be close because it feels like every Texas A&M game is close. And then to wrap up, a huge one in the Big 12, possibly a look at a Big 12 title game. BYU, number 7 in the country, at number 8 Texas Tech. The line surprised me on this one. Texas Tech favored by 10.5 at home. I get it. Like, Texas Tech has played really well against ranked teams. I mean, look at what they did to Utah, but 10.5 seems like a lot. This BYU team is really physical and can match the physicality of Texas Tech. But I'm picking Texas Tech because of one thing. I think Texas Tech offensively can be balanced. They can throw the ball well. They can run the ball well. BYU, when I watch them, they have spurts where you can see them throw the ball, but they feel very one-dimensional, where they feel like they want to just run the ball, and they're more comfortable in that position. And I think Texas Tech, with that physicality, I think they're going to be smart and have a QB spy on the BYU quarterback, something if you watch that Cyclones game, Iowa State didn't do, and there's a reason BYU ran away with that game in the second half outside of the Rocco turnovers. Texas Tech wins this game. I don't think 10.5 by 10.5 points. Give me BYU covering that, but the Red Raiders win at home. So those are our college football picks. We have Oregon taking down Iowa, TCU taking down the Cyclones, Texas A&M winning, and Texas Tech winning as well. And that's just visually pleasing because we go away team wins, home team wins, away team wins, home team wins. And that's just a weird OCD thing. I never like it where I have too many on one side, like I will with the NFL picks. So real quick, NFL picks. Starting with the Patriots and Bucks. Patriots have been really fun to watch. I mean, Drake May has looked well, really good. I love their coach, but Baker Mayfield comes on the field, and even though this team has just been banged up forever, all season long it feels like, they continue to win. At least put themselves in a position to win every game. They're not getting blown out by really anyone. This is going to be a tough game. Maybe if it was in New England, I pick the Patriots, but I'm taking Tampa Bay at home. Then you have the Jaguars at Houston. I'm taking Houston. Jaguars' offensive line is so bad. It's like 2.5 points going to Jacksonville right now. I think the Texans upset Jacksonville. I think this is a game where Houston, that defensive line is really strong for the Texans, one of the few bright spots for the Texans. They take down the Jags and are able to pressure Lawrence, force a few turnovers, and those will be game changers. Then you have LA at San Francisco, a huge game for the league, but especially for me as a Seahawks fan. I mean, LA is looking unstoppable right now. And Matthew Stafford, no matter how old he is playing like an MVP candidate and isn't looking like he's taken a foot off the pedal at all. I think the Rams steamroll San Francisco on the road. So give me the Rams just absolutely dominating the 49ers. And then to wrap it up, we have the Eagles at Green Bay. This one I went back and forth on 8 times. And I know they just lost a key offensive player, but at Lambeau, that defense has really impressed me. The Eagles defensively are not good. So I think Love, as long as he doesn't turn over the ball, I think he has a really strong game, a bounce back performance after last week. So give me the Packers, but in a really close battle. So now that we're through our college football discussion for today, I did want to end the show, I was hoping, on a higher note, but it was not the homecoming welcome for Coach Henderson and this new Drake men's basketball team as they fall to Robert Morris 81-79 in overtime in what can only be described as a stunner. This is the first time since 2016-17 that Drake has lost a home opener to begin the year, and just absolutely stunned. I think if you're a glass half full person, you sit here and go, well, it's a good sign that you're stunned because that means your expectations have grown higher with the success of this program through recent years, which is true. But I mean, it's tough to really find silver lining in this loss. Robert Morris is a team that didn't look like a huge threat when you're watching them on Tuesday get steamrolled by Iowa, and you're expecting all these concerns and issues that you saw on Monday in the season opener win for the Drake Bulldogs. You're expecting to see those things built upon and fixed. Maybe not to perfection. There's still a lot to be learned with this team and still a lot that needs to be fixed. But you wanted to see the rebounding improve slightly. You wanted to see the points in the paint be tougher for opponents. And just none of that happened. And so before we dive too deep into this loss for the Bulldogs, here is Coach Henderson right after the game, his post-game opening thoughts following the 81-79 loss in overtime at the Knapp Center on Thursday.
Obviously, certainly not the outcome we wanted, but first, just the environment, the support that we get. Keep coming back because we're going to keep battling and we're going to keep growing and we're going to learn from this and we're going to get better. And I can guarantee you that, but at the end of the day, we've got to do a better job of making sure that we come out and dictate the flow of this game. And I thought at the end of the day, Robert Morris probably did that to no surprise. Obviously, we know what the outcome was for them on Tuesday night, and I knew we'd get a different team than we saw Tuesday. And credit to them, but we'll keep learning and keep growing from this, and we'll be all right.
So, I mean, to start, I guess we learned on Thursday night, this is not a first half team. This is a second half team. Once again, Drake comes out sluggish, miscommunication all over the place. Didn't look like they were aggressive right away. Coach Henderson, throughout the post-game interview, was constantly talking about how his team at home did not assert the pace, did not really force Robert Morris to play their style. It was kind of the other way around. And in the first half, you just had a Drake team that, sure, you had a great outing. Federico, who put up 14 points and 7 rebounds in the first half, but slowed down in that second half. You had a Robert Morris team that started 3 of 3 and just really, like Henderson talked about, asserted their dominance quickly. And you just had a Drake team that allowed way too much in the paint, could not guard the paint all night long. Robert Morris had 40 points in the paint. Drake, they had 36 as well, but they were tougher to come upon than Robert Morris's points in the paint. You look at the assist numbers. You have Robert Morris with 18 assists, Drake with only 9, and that is kind of where I think the biggest concern for this team begins. This offense, the best way to put it, a fan tweeted this out, and I fully agree with this. There's not an identity. The identity right now for this Drake offense is get to the paint and hope you can get a layup, because this team cannot hit a three right now. They went 6 of 23 from behind the arc. And now, not all that's on Drake. I mean, you watch this team and they have moments of great ball movement and great spacing. Then the shot just doesn't fall. You watch towards the end in overtime with about a minute or so to go. Drake has an excellent possession where they have an opportunity to take the lead by 1. And they're moving the ball around. There's backdoor cuts. This ball is swinging around the arc. It lands in the hands of Jashawn Thomas, who is wide open on the left wing, fires it, and it spins around that rim 3 times and rolls out. That was the kind of day for this team. But in that second half, they got to the paint. Jalen Quinn dominates again, where the first half he kind of struggled. Second half just takes over for this Drake offense. They put up 33 points to Robert Morris's 28. But again, there's miscommunications all over the place. There's no one's in sync offensively. It feels like you have Jalen Quinn going one-on-one. You have Federico going one-on-one. Offensively, there's not this gelled unit yet. And it's going to take time. But you don't expect there to be that big of a glaring error on that side of the ball this early in the season and against these kinds of opponents, even if you are Drake. The defensive end, we've talked about how easy it was for both teams, New Mexico and for Robert Morris, to really score in the paint against Drake, which is very concerning. When you look in the Valley, you have teams like Belmont that can just move the ball so efficiently. You're going to have to play Chase Walker, who's the best big man in the conference, in my opinion, at Illinois State. And then you have Murray State, who absolutely scares me now because they have 6 players over the size of 6'6". And 1 or 2 of those guys are 6'7", 6'8". Most of them fit into that 6'10", 6'11 frame. And they can pick and roll. They can pick and pop. They move the ball well. They were scary to watch on Monday. So when you see teams like Robert Morris, who don't have established big men or as well recognized established big men, you wouldn't expect Drake to struggle. But that's not the biggest concern. The biggest concern defensively is communication. So many times defensively, you would have Robert Morris set this offensive screen. Guys wouldn't communicate. They would run into each other. They would double team one guy, leave a guy wide open for a 3, or the paint would be wide open and you're trailing behind, you're fouling. Just way too much miscommunication. And this looks like a team where no one has played together, which is true. What's been the difference from McCollum and the DeVries years? DeVries, of course, had time to build a team and to go recruit and gel this team together. McCollum legitimately just brought everyone with him from D2. Now you have Henderson taking over as the 3rd straight coach with a 3rd new roster and 3rd new coaching staff, trying to put together a team where the only person he's coached is currently sitting on the bench with a torn ACL or healing his torn ACL, and Owen Larson. This team, it's going to take time. I'm not putting on the alarms, but that was a stunning loss, and it was a gut punch because you see glimpses of what this team can be, both sides of the ball, and it just hasn't gelled yet. And now losing to Robert Morris at home, there's a little sense of urgency. Now, again, I'm not putting on the alarms. Not yet. But tough one for the Drake Bulldogs. They are back on Monday against Simpson College at 6:30. We, of course, will be at that game. But, of course, before that, we have Drake football on Saturday at noon, and then Drake women, a huge one at 4 o'clock Sunday at the Knapp Center. They take on Creighton. We will be at that game as well. That will be a lot of fun to go and cover. Love Pullman. This team, again, looks like it's not missing a step. Will be a lot of fun to cover as well. So follow along all over social media for that. So that will do it for this week of shows. Thank you guys so much for all your support. Thank you again for just being there, because our numbers have been incredible. It's just been an amazing experience. And like the GIF I put out from Happy Gilmore, it's Chubbs at the piano. We've only just begun. So we will see you guys on Saturday and Sunday. And then, of course, a brand new episode on Monday as we will recap a great weekend of Drake sports, national sports, local sports, and even more on the Media Row podcast.